Storms and tidal surges erode our coastline and flood coastal communities. On the Holderness coast, whose southernmost tip is right here at Spurn Point, we actually have the fastest eroding coastline in Europe. We lose 2 meters of coastline to the sea every single year. Here at Wilder Humber, we believe that the habitats that we're restoring, oyster reefs, salt marsh, seagrass meadows, and sand dunes, are nature's coastal defenses. But can healthy coastal ecosystems be nature's solution? We're putting that theory to the test, and the best way to demonstrate? Well, you'd better get your bucket and spade ready.
On a low tide, draw 2 lines parallel to the shore. Build your castle between these lines. A flag or a feather must fly from the keep.
Construction finishes the moment the rising tide reaches the first line. The last flag standing wins.
We have 2 teams, Team Humber versus Team Holderness. Team Holderness are building a castle with no natural defences, whilst Team Humber's castle will be protected by our hero habitats. Under the waves, it looks like this. Native oyster reefs break up the waves. Seagrass slows the water and traps sediment. Salt marshes absorb the energy from storm surges, and finally, sand dunes provide the last line of defence and prevent the waves from reaching land.
We at Team Humber are using old oyster shells piled on the sand to represent an oyster reef.
So these squares of turf represent the swaying fronds of a seagrass meadow and the strong roots that hold it all together.
Above the meadow is a salt marsh where dense vegetation surrounds a labyrinth of channels.
Sand dunes are the final line of defence. These wind-blown barriers tower above the surf and work to repel the swell.
And while Team Humber here are working on their fortifications, let's see how Team Holderness are getting on.
So we've raised our keep off of the sand. It's not a very classic Motte and Bailey castle, but it's getting there. I think the last thing for us to do is put this in.
While Team Holderness's castle is an impressive feat of engineering, will its armoured terraces hold up against the incoming tide? Which flag will fall first? And which team will be victorious in this race against tide and time?
Breach! The last wave touched the line. Everyone stop building, now!
The competition has begun. Both castles lay mere meters from the advancing waves. Let's see how those natural defences hold up.
Coming up after the break.
It was so tense.
Where those waves were going to go, what it would hit first.
So that's where it's starting to get a little bit worrying.
I always thought there was going to be a clear winner, and there was.
Before the break.
He was so dramatic.
I was on the edge of my seat.
I had no idea what was going to happen.
I had no idea which flag was going to come down first.
The first habitat to feel the cold North Sea are the oysters.
Do you see how wrapping around the shells is draining the water's energy?
Even once fully submerged, the craggy textures of an oyster reef force the water to move around its rigid surfaces. This reduces the impact of the rising tide further up the shore.
Yeah, go on oysters!
Meanwhile, at the undefended Holderness castle, the waves are already lapping at the lower terrace.
Oh,
No, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay.
Back at Castle Humber, it's the seagrasses' turn to hold the fort. Here, the loose vegetation catches the flowing water and saps its energy, like having a meeting on Teams.
Bereft of those natural protections, it looks like Castle Holderness is starting to crumble.
Its soft construction offers little resistance to the full force of the tide. With each lapping wave, its walls collapse. Finally, the water passes beyond the seagrass meadows.
Oh no, that's our last line of defence. Oh no, that's our last line of defence.
But in order to traverse the elevated salt marsh and hilly sand dunes, the sea must push water uphill at great expense of energy.
This is it.
But before the tide can muster much strength, Castle Holderness is lost. A volley of waves has eaten away its foundations, leaving the keep vulnerable to attack, and in one final blow, the flag tumbles and the battle is over. The winner is left standing, a mighty citadel guarded by nature, barely a scratch upon its walls, whilst the neglected cousin has succumbed to the surf.
I always thought Seagrass was really rubbish, but actually...
There were some very tense moments, but they made a really, really nice sandcastle.
I knew we were going to win. The Seascape one was so much better built and we had those habitats protecting us.
This is why at Wilder Humber we are working to restore and enrich oysters, seagrass, salt marsh and sand dunes. Not as separate habitats, but as a connected ecosystem, working with nature to protect our coastlines for the future.